Okay. I am back with another Destiny 2 video. Takes something pretty big to make me do two videos in one day here. But that's definitely happened today with some breaking news that I certainly was not expecting. So Sony has bought Bungie. There's no point burying the lead there. I'll talk a little bit about the context of this, but Sony has bought Bungie for $3.6 billion dollars, with the express caveat that they are remaining in like an independent arm of Sony. And they have said very, very clearly that they are not going to become Sony exclusive. Destiny 2 is not moving to PlayStation exclusivity. They've even being pretty clear that their future IPs are not going to be PlayStation exclusive. I'm still trying to parse out whether that means like PC mobile or also Xbox, but this is a very big, very unique deal, one that I am still kind of trying to wrap my head around given how unique it is. It would actually be a lot more straightforward if kind of Sony bought Bungie and then was just like, okay, all your future IPs and Destiny is now exclusive, which I don't think Bungie would have sold if that was the stipulation. I don't think Bungie would have just wanted to rip down, people who've played Destiny for 7 years on Xbox and just tear that away from them. So it seems like a pretty significant part of this deal was Bungie remaining independent. So just for context, this is obviously coming in the wake of Microsoft buying both Bethesda for, I forget, it's like $7.5 billion or $12 billion or something like that, and getting all those IPs, and pretty much all of those are going Microsoft exclusive. And then Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, where they have confirmed that Call of Duty is staying multi-platform for a few years, but that seems to be like because they have to, because there's some like contracts in place that have to be honored with Sony for some period of time, but who knows what the future holds. This deal is a lot smaller, but like Bungie is kind of one of the last, or they were one of the last remaining kind of big independent publishers out there, outside of the kind of really, really huge ones, your EAs and Ubisoft, Square Enix, Take-Two, things like that. But it's like, besides that, it's like Bungie, CDPR, not a whole lot of others. Like Capcom, maybe, I'm not sure what Capcom's market value is right now, but like they're all kind of similar to that range. And Destiny is impressive in that it only has one IP right now. It has only had one IP for the last 7 years, which is Destiny. And Destiny exists as the most successful live service game, more or less. Like, it depends what you're counting as a live service, but like really the only kind of looter shooter ongoing service game in the genre that has like really, really hit blockbuster success, and it's kind of kept growing as time's gone on. But this is a very unique deal. I'll just read exactly kind of what Bungie says. One of Bungie's like FAQ pages is down because everyone's spamming it right now with this news. But the key thing here is we remain in charge of our destiny. We will continue to independently publish and creatively develop our games. We will continue to drive one unified Bungie community. Our games will continue to be where our community is, wherever they choose to play. With SIE's support, the most immediate change you will see is an acceleration in hiring talent across the studio to support our ambitious vision. If this speaks to you and you want to help us put it out in the universe, we are hiring across all disciplines of Destiny 2, blah, blah, blah. And then in the FAQ page before it crashed, Axios' Steven Totillo posted this on Twitter. Q, Bungie has future games in development. Will they now become PlayStation exclusives? No, we want the worlds we are creating to extend anywhere people play games. And then Sony issued something about how, I don't have the quote in front of me, but it's something about how Sony will help them transition into Bungie will help them transition into making games places other than PlayStation. Like, I guess you could maybe interpret this as they could come to other platforms like PC and mobile, but exclude Xbox. But like the wording, even it does sound like it includes Xbox, honestly. And at the very, very least, I cannot imagine Destiny 2 is coming down off Xbox. That seems very, very clear. Like what is not happening. What does this change fundamentally? Like that remains pretty unclear. I think Bungie very much has the designs to be kind of the next Blizzard, back when Blizzard was good, or BioWare, something like that. A company that is like producing multiple IPs at a time, is really big and like producing high quality products. Like again, like Blizzard and BioWare used to back in the day when they're making kind of hit after hit. And both of those companies, like EA owns BioWare, Activision bought Blizzard, and so Sony might see them buying Bungie as, that kind of thing. And like, obviously this is different because Sony is a console maker, but I think Sony is sort of reading the tea leaves here, and that it is better maybe to think of the long-term future where you can't hide behind console exclusivity forever. Like, even if you're excluding maybe one of your competitors, like Xbox is excluding Sony, like, you need to branch into PC, you need to branch into cloud, into mobile. Like, you can't just rely on selling only PlayStation forever. As good as things are going now, and things are going very good. So this seems to be kind of a forward-facing move for them. I do not imagine that this is going to change anything fundamentally about Destiny, except maybe for the better, because, in theory, this should allow a lot more hiring power, a lot more spending power, bigger budgets on things, like a giant infusion of resources. Like, Sony is a $150 billion company who just bought Bungie for $3.6 billion, and you can debate whether that's a good value or not. But the point is now they have access to a lot more resources than they did previously, and that can benefit the game. Obviously, I think players are going to immediately jump to potential concerns here that we are going to want to hear from Bungie directly, besides just the exclusivity question. That would include things like, are we going back to having Sony exclusive strikes and content, or, things in the season pass? Is there like a Sony track of the battle pass now? And like, all of those things seem really petty to me, in that, like, I don't imagine that they would do that as a result of this deal, because like what they're thinking about here is these like really, really large scale ambitions, not like Sony's not paying $3.6 billion for Bungie so they can have, one exclusive strike in Destiny, every expansion or something. Like, I don't imagine that we're going to go back to that kind of, pettiness of console specific content again. If we did, I'd be pretty disappointed. But like, if their messaging here is that they really want to remain multi-platform, play things wherever they go, like, that would screw around with crossplay, like, in a way that it didn't back then, because there wasn't crossplay. And like, so you can't really do stuff like that anymore to the same extent. So I'm not too worried about that. There's a worry, potentially, like, okay, are they going to increase prices because now they got to generate revenue for Sony? Because if there's not exclusivity, Sony is obviously raking in money from Bungie selling expansions and seasons and microtransactions and stuff. So are they going to, raise prices or increase the number of microtransactions they have, things like that? Sony's obviously not a hugely microtransaction intensive company in terms of their games. Like, most of their games are these big, third player or third person action games that are not about microtransactions, or, they might have some DLC, but that's not really the style of the games they have. So this is just sort of it's an ongoing revenue stream as it is for them. Like, I think, Bungie's making some, pretty good money on current Destiny content. So I would hope this wouldn't bring some sort of influx of microtransactions or something. But like, I will say this all feels kind of weird to me, because you don't see deals like this made at this level that very clearly come out and say that they're not about exclusivity going forward. And I think there's a lot of stuff being kind of left unsaid here, where we don't know kind of Bungie's grand future plans. We don't know how many new IPs they're releasing and when. We know they're expanding into multimedia, which Sony has Sony Pictures and Sony Television and, all that stuff. So that could have something to do with this here and their expansion into multimedia. We know some sort of Destiny TV show or movie or something is coming. So this could be related to that as well. And then we don't know what Sony's plans are, because we know that they are killing it with PlayStation 5. Their first party studios are still making plenty of great games year after year. But again, I think they want to expand more into becoming more of an all-encompassing platform. So I don't think they need to buy a publisher and lock them down already when they are already so far ahead in the exclusives game that, like, all that would do would be like nothing would really change for PlayStation players, but it would dramatically upset PC and Xbox players, and like there'd be all this negative, anger directed towards them. Whereas like now this announcement is just sort of like nothing changes. It seems like that's at least how they're pitching it, and whether that ends up being true or not is anyone's guess. But like, I'm not seeing any like immediate red flags here where we have to be aware of some sort of tragedy about to befall Destiny or Bungie as a company or something. And like, this really just seems like Sony's going to throw a ton of money at them to expand as much as they want to expand, and then in turn they're going to want to have a successful publisher publishing multiple IPs successfully. I do think the Blizzard and BioWare metaphors are kind of accurate here. it is weird because it's Sony and it's not Activision or EA or Ubisoft buying them. It's like, because those are all multi-platform companies anyway, and Sony is not. But to me, this feels like Sony trying to be forward-looking in a way they haven't really been this generation so far, with like really kind of locked-in exclusives and years later PC ports and things like that. So this might be kind of the harbinger of change for them. So truly wild news. I'm sure I'll be making multiple videos about this. I was supposed to run errands and like an hour ago, and I've just been covering this nonstop. But those are kind of my initial thoughts out of the gate here based on what I'm reading. Once all these FAQ sites and things stop crashing, maybe there's more information to come of this. I know most Bungie people did not know about this. They held an all-hands meeting this morning at 10 a.m. Pacific, and like that's when almost everybody found out, including like community people like DMG. So like pretty much no one knew about this. And I know everyone pushed back on the idea that like when I was talking about Microsoft potentially buying Bungie, people were like, no, Bungie would never sell. And like, that's just not true. In this industry, there is always a number. And I'm not painting this as like, oh, Bungie's just being greedy and they wanted money, like blah, blah, blah. Like this could end up being, pretty beneficial for them. But I'm also not surprised this is happening given the state of the industry these days and how fast things are getting snapped up. And this is certainly not going to be the last one like this. I made fun of an analyst take yesterday that Sony was gearing up to buy EA or Ubisoft because like I just don't think they can afford it based on their size. But sure enough, this happened today, and again, this is not going to be the last deal of this nature that we see from either Sony or Microsoft. Or I think the more logical answer is I do think we're going to see like Google or Apple or Meta or whoever or Amazon buy a big studio, buy EA, buy Ubisoft as a way to get into gaming because they can afford stuff like that without even batting an eyelash. Like I'm pretty sure Apple made like, the half of the Activision deal in one quarter this year. So if tech kind of wants to follow Microsoft and get into gaming, that's who I'm eyeing for the big acquisitions. I'm not eyeing like Sony buying EA next or something like that, or Nintendo or whatever. But anyway, it's a crazy industry. This has only gotten crazier as time's gone on. Again, I don't know if all this consolidation is great, but if we're just talking about like the fate of Destiny specifically and Bungie, I'm not sure how much is going to be changing here for the worse, but obviously we will need to keep an eye on that. So anyway, thanks for watching. I have many more thoughts about this to come, so take care.